You know that moment when you're lying next to someone who feels like a stranger, when the man you love has become an emotional fortress, and every attempt to connect bounces off his walls like you're speaking a language he's forgotten how to understand. Here's what no one tells you about cold men, and what Carl Jung discovered about the feminine psyche that changes everything. I used to believe that love meant persistence, that if I just tried harder, spoke his language better, gave more space or pressed more boundaries, eventually his walls would come down. But Jung revealed something that shattered everything I thought I knew about masculine emotional withdrawal. The truth is, when a man goes cold, he's not rejecting you, he's protecting something so fundamental to his psyche that most people never even realize it exists. And high-value women, they understand this at a level that transforms not just their relationships, but their entire understanding of feminine power. If you've ever felt like you're speaking to a wall, if you've wondered whether you're too much or not enough, if you've questioned your own intuition about someone's capacity for depth, you're not imagining this. Your instincts are correct. There's something happening beneath the surface that psychology finally explains. Hit subscribe right now, because what I'm about to share will change how you see every cold man for the rest of your life. Let me start by honoring something that most relationship advice completely ignores. You're not crazy for sensing depth in someone who appears shallow. You're not delusional for feeling a soul connection with someone who acts like emotions are foreign concepts. Jung called this anima recognition, your feminine psyche's ability to perceive the hidden emotional world that men often bury so deep they've forgotten it exists themselves. Haven't you noticed how the coldest men often have the most intense eyes? How they can be completely shut down verbally, but you feel their emotional intensity like heat waves? How they seem to understand you at levels they never verbalize? This isn't your imagination. This is your archetypal feminine wisdom, recognizing what Jung called the wounded anima, the part of masculine psychology that holds all their capacity for depth, creativity, and emotional connection, but has been exiled from conscious awareness. Research in depth psychology shows that women naturally attune to these hidden emotional states. You're not being too sensitive. You're accessing an evolutionary advantage that allowed our ancestors to understand and influence the emotional landscapes of their communities. People like us understand that surface behavior is never the whole story. We sense the depths even when others can't see them. And that sensitivity, it's not a weakness, it's archetypal feminine power. Like this video, if you've ever felt like you could see someone's soul even when they couldn't see it themselves. Now here's where everything you've been told about dealing with cold men falls apart completely. Most relationship advice treats masculine emotional withdrawal like a behavioral problem to be solved with better communication techniques. Use "I'm" statements, give him space, don't be needy, be more independent. What if I told you that every single one of these approaches actually reinforces the very pattern you're trying to break? Jung discovered something revolutionary. When a man goes cold, he's not lacking communication skills. He's experiencing what depth psychology calls anima possession. His feminine side, the part that holds his emotional wisdom, his capacity for connection, his ability to feel deeply, has been split off from his conscious personality and is now controlling him from the unconscious. This means that trying to fix his coldness with relationship techniques is like trying to cure a fever by putting ice on someone's forehead. You're treating the symptom while the real dynamic operates at an archetypal level. Here's what mainstream psychology misses. Cold men aren't emotionally unavailable. They're emotionally overwhelmed. Their psyche has banished the feminine principle to the unconscious because it feels too dangerous, too intense, too threatening to their sense of masculine identity. And you know what triggers this defensive reaction most powerfully? A woman who embodies integrated feminine energy. Your very presence activates everything they've tried to hide from themselves. So when relationship experts tell you to communicate better or be less emotional or give him space, they're asking you to collaborate with his psychological splitting. They're telling you to hide the very qualities that make you powerful. The truth no one wants to admit? Most relationship advice is designed to help you manage masculine emotional immaturity, not transform it. Here's what Jung understood that changes everything. In every man's psyche lives what he called the anima, the feminine aspect of his soul. This isn't metaphysical theory. This is psychological architecture. The anima holds a man's capacity for emotional depth, artistic sensitivity, intuitive knowing, and authentic connection. In healthy psychological development, men learn to integrate this feminine wisdom into their conscious personality. But in our culture, most men learn to reject and exile their anima because feminine qualities are seen as weakness. So the anima gets buried in the unconscious, where it becomes either completely cut off, creating the cold man, or it possesses him unconsciously, creating emotional chaos. When you encounter a cold man, you're not meeting an emotionally absent person. You're meeting someone whose emotional world has been driven underground. And here's the profound part. Your feminine energy naturally activates his buried anima. This is why cold men are often drawn to warm, emotionally expressive women, but then feel compelled to shut down around them. Your aliveness triggers everything they've tried to suppress. Jung worked extensively with couples and discovered that when a woman understands this dynamic, she gains access to what he called transformational feminine power, the ability to call forth integrated masculine energy instead of being defeated by masculine wounding. This is why you've probably noticed that the men who go coldest around you are often the same ones who seem most alive in your presence before they shut down. You're literally awakening parts of their psyche they don't know how to handle. So what does a high-value woman do with this understanding? She stops trying to manage his emotional immaturity and starts embodying archetypal feminine wisdom. Principle 1. Mirror integration. Not splitting instead of adapting to his emotional unavailability, she becomes a living example of psychological integration. While he's split between his conscious masculine persona and his unconscious feminine depths, she embodies both strength and sensitivity, logic and intuition, independence and connection. She doesn't hide her emotional range to make him comfortable. She demonstrates what integrated human being looks like. When he goes cold, instead of pursuing or withdrawing, she maintains her full emotional presence while staying centered in her own truth. She doesn't take his emotional state personally because she understands it's not about her meris, it's about his relationship with his own anima. Principle 2. Activate, don't accommodate. Jung discovered that the anima responds to what he called authentic feminine presence, not performance of femininity, but genuine feminine energy. This means she doesn't try to be less threatening or more accommodating. Instead, she becomes more herself, more creative, more intuitive, more emotionally honest, more alive. This naturally activates his anima, which either forces integration or forces him to reveal his level of psychological development. Haven't you noticed that cold men often become most reactive around women who are most authentically themselves? That's not a coincidence. That's archetypal activation. Principle 3. Speak to his anima, not his persona. High-value women learn to communicate with the parts of him that are alive, not the defended parts. When his conscious mind is shut down, she speaks to his unconscious wisdom. This isn't manipulation, it's recognition. She sees the depth he can't access and responds to that, which gradually teaches him that his emotional world is safe to inhabit. Instead of saying, "You never talk to me anymore," she might say, "I can feel how much is moving beneath the surface for you. Your inner world seems so rich right now." She's not trying to get him to open up. She's acknowledging what's already true and giving his anima permission to exist. Share in the comments, have you ever noticed a man becoming more reactive the more authentic you became? Tell me your country too. I want to see where my fellow depth seekers are watching from. Now here's where we completely revolutionize what conquering a cold man actually means. Most women think conquering means getting him to open up, to communicate, to become emotionally available. But Jung revealed something that changes this entire game. You don't conquer a cold man by making him warm. You conquer the dynamic by refusing to be conquered by his coldness. The real conquest happens when you become so integrated, so authentic, so connected to your own archetypal power, that his emotional state becomes irrelevant to your sense of self-worth and connection. This is what Jung called individuated relating, loving from wholeness instead of need, connecting from strength instead of emptiness. When you reach this level of feminine development, something magical happens. Cold men either rise to meet your energy, or they naturally exit your life. Not because you're pushing them away, but because unintegrated masculine energy can't sustain connection with integrated feminine power. Depth psychology research shows that people can only maintain relationships at their level of psychological development. When you embody integrated feminine energy, you naturally attract and maintain connections with integrated masculine energy. So conquering a cold man isn't about melting his walls. It's about becoming so warm that you don't need his warmth to feel alive. It's about becoming so connected to your own depths that you don't need his emotional availability to feel seen. When you reach this place, one of two things happens. Either your archetypal feminine presence awakens his buried anima, and he begins his own integration journey, or you realize that what you actually wanted was someone capable of meeting you in the depths, not someone you had to rescue from emotional exile. This is why high-value women rarely end up with chronically cold men long-term, not because they're rejecting them, but because they've developed beyond the psychological dynamic that creates and maintains emotional unavailability. Let me share what this journey actually looks like in practice, because Jung was clear that psychological transformation isn't just theoretical myth, it creates measurable changes in your life experience. When you begin to understand cold men through this archetypal lens, you stop taking their emotional states as evidence of your worth. You start seeing their behavior as information about their psychological development, not judgment of your lovability. This shift is profound because it moves you from reactive feminine energy, constantly adjusting yourself based on masculine emotional states, to creative feminine energy, maintaining your truth regardless of external responses. Your relationships begin to transform at every level. You stop attracting men who need emotional rescue because you're no longer unconsciously seeking to heal masculine wounding through your feminine presence. Instead, you start attracting men who are already on their own integration journey, men who see your emotional depth as inspiring, not threatening, your feminine wisdom as valuable, not overwhelming. You'll notice that integrated men respond to your authenticity with curiosity and appreciation, while unintegrated men respond with either idealization or rejection. This becomes your navigation system for healthy connection. Jung called this anima-animus integration, when both masculine and feminine principles are developed and balanced within individuals, creating the possibility for genuine soul-level connection between partners. As you start to embody this understanding, you'll begin to recognize cold behavior as information, not invitation. You'll feel compassion for the exile of masculine emotional life without feeling responsible for healing it. Most importantly, you'll discover that your sensitivity and emotional intelligence aren't obstacles to love. They're the very qualities that attract authentic, integrated masculine energy. Here's how to begin this transformation immediately. Step 1. Anima recognition practice. For the next week, when you encounter cold behavior from any man, practice seeing it as anima exile rather than personal rejection. Ask yourself, what part of his emotional world is he protecting by staying closed? This isn't about fixing or healing him. It's about training yourself to see psychological dynamics instead of taking emotional states personally. Step 2. Integration assessment. Look at your own relationship with your masculine and feminine energies. Are you trying to be only soft and accommodating, unintegrated feminine, or are you embodying both strength and sensitivity, integrated feminine? Jung emphasized that we can only attract the level of integration we embody ourselves. Step 3. Response pattern shift. Instead of pursuing when he withdraws or withdrawing when he pursues, practice maintaining a consistent emotional presence. Stay warm without chasing. Stay available without pursuing. Stay open without accommodating dysfunction. This teaches both your nervous system and his that emotional consistency is possible. Step 4. Depth communication. Begin speaking to the person behind the persona. Acknowledge what you sense beneath surface behavior. I can feel how much you care even when you can't express it, or your sensitivity shows up in ways you might not even realize. This activates anima recognition without demanding emotional performance. Tell me in the comments, what's one way you've been adapting to masculine emotional unavailability that you're ready to stop? Let's support each other in this integration journey. For those ready to go deeper, Jung discovered something profound about the archetypal relationship between integrated feminine energy and masculine psychological development. He found that the anima masculine emotional wisdom mentis actually learns through relationship with embodied feminine presence. This means that your authentic feminine energy literally teaches men how to integrate their own emotional depths. But this only works when you're relating from wholeness, not need. When you're trying to heal or fix masculine emotional immaturity, you're actually enabling the very splitting you're trying to resolve. This is why cold men often become colder around women who try harder, but begin to thaw around women who remain authentically themselves regardless of masculine emotional states. Your integrated presence creates a field of safety for masculine emotional integration, but only when you're not invested in the outcome. Master-level feminine energy maintains love without attachment to specific forms of expression. You can love a man's potential without needing him to actualize it. You can see his depths without requiring him to inhabit them. This paradox, loving without needing to change energy, creates the psychological safety necessary for genuine masculine emotional development. What Jung understood, and what high-value women are beginning to embody, is that this isn't just about individual relationships. This is about healing a cultural split between masculine and feminine energies that has created epidemic emotional unavailability. We live in a culture that has taught men to exile their feminine wisdom and women to accommodate masculine emotional immaturity. This creates a cycle where nobody develops full psychological integration. When women stop colluding with masculine emotional unavailability and start embodying integrated feminine power, we begin to heal this cultural wound at its source. Your journey toward understanding cold men is actually a journey toward understanding the archetypal dynamics that shape all human connections. Jung believed that individual psychological integration contributes to collective healing. As more women embody this understanding, we're moving toward what depth psychology calls the sacred marriage. Not just between individuals but between masculine and feminine principles within culture itself. This is why your personal transformation in relationships matters beyond your personal life. You're participating in a larger healing of human connection patterns. Remember that moment I described at the beginning, lying next to someone who feels like a stranger. When you understand what we've explored today, that moment transforms from abandonment to archetypal recognition. You're not lying next to someone who doesn't care. You're lying next to someone whose capacity for depth has been exiled from conscious awareness. And your presence, your sensitivity, your emotional aliveness are literally calling to the parts of him that remember how to love. Whether he answers that call or not is about his readiness for integration, not your worthiness of love. Your role isn't to heal his splitting, it's to embody wholeness so completely that splitting becomes impossible to maintain in your presence. This is the true conquest, not changing cold men, but becoming so warm that coldness either transforms or exits your experience naturally. Jung spent his life studying these archetypal patterns because he understood that when we integrate masculine and feminine principles within ourselves, we create the possibility for authentic soul connection with others. Your sensitivity isn't too much, it's archetypal feminine wisdom. Your emotional intelligence isn't overwhelming, it's an evolutionary advantage. Your ability to sense depth in closed people isn't naive, it's anima recognition. Tell me in the comments what resonated most deeply with you. Share your experiences with the principles we've explored, and let me know what you'd like to understand next about the psychology of masculine-feminine dynamics. Next week, I'm revealing Jung's secret teachings about why some women become addicted to emotionally unavailable men, and the archetypal pattern that breaks this cycle forever. This is essential viewing. If anything we discussed today hit home, the psychology of attraction to unavailable partners goes deeper than most people realize, and Jung's insights will transform how you understand your own relationship patterns. Subscribe and hit the notification bell because this journey into depth psychology and archetypal relationship wisdom is just beginning. We're going places that mainstream relationship advice has never dared to explore. You came here sensing there was more to understand about cold men, and you were right. There's an entire psychological landscape beneath surface behavior, and your intuition led you to the exact understanding you needed. Trust that instinct. It's archetypal feminine wisdom, and it's never wrong.